Welcome to episode 1 of Badasste with Suzie Ridler, where the badass in you is acknowledged. I can see you. Yes, it's Suzie Ridler. Boy, I've had a few podcasts, so you might know me from other projects such as Hexed, Sisterhood of the Supernatural, which I did with my sister Shannon about supernatural television. And then she and I also did a podcast with our sister Jamie, Start Creating As We Go. And then I also did For the Love of Food for a little while, but then the pandemic hit and then everything went to hell. So for those of you who don't know the term namaste, basically the idea is that the light in me acknowledges the light in you. It's a very lovely way to finish off a yoga class or begin a yoga class or to say hello or to say goodbye to somebody who practices yoga and is a spiritual person in general. And I just came up with this idea one day of Badasste because I love the spiritual element of life. I mean, I've done lots of stuff about the paranormal and spirituality and all those sorts of things, but I care very much about courage. I care very much about the adventurous spirit that we all have, that I hope we all have. And I care about being a badass. I mean, if I have a choice between the safe choice and doing a crazy choice, I will usually choose the crazy choice. And sometimes, like, small things can be very badass. Like, the smallest things, especially if chronic health problems like I do, going for a walk on a winter's day may not be a big deal for someone else, but for me, it's huge. So I wanted to connect with other people and hear about their stories of courage, not just my own. So a lot of it is going to be based on interviews with other people. And I cannot wait. I cannot wait to actually talk to people that I've known online like forever, but will actually speak in person. I'll get to hear their voice. I'll get to hear their stories, and so will you. One thing I've discovered through the pandemic is that I ache to connect with other people. I don't know about you, but I have social anxiety. I have real issues with connecting with people in real life. And I thought that I could handle all of this without connecting with people. But I realized that when it comes down to it, stories are what bring us together. People are what inspire us to keep going. And I really want to get to know people. And I really want to connect and hear their stories and share them with you. So a little bit about me. Again, my name is Suzie Ridler. I have been a writer for most of my life. I started reading when I was a late bloomer when it came to reading. My mom was actually very worried about me, and she went out and got me a book on how to be a detective, and it was for kids. And that changed my life forever when I realized, oh, books don't have to be boring. And I went from that to Jane Eyre. Clan of the Cave Bear in between, which was completely inappropriate for an 11-year-old. But then after that, I was absolutely hooked on books. And then I was writing poetry very young. And I think that's where I really found my voice, was through writing. But I also felt very oppressed by writing. It felt very lonely. It felt like the only way I could talk. And that made me really sad. So when I went to university and I connected with other like-minded writers and readers, it was really inspiring. It was exciting. I wasn't there to make a lot of friends, but I have lifelong friends that I've made as a result of doing it. And I am so proud. I was never a big academic person at all. I was always wanting to run off and get a job and to do all sorts of things like that. I had no interest in academia until I actually had a chance to pick what I wanted to study and go and study it, and then to pick the brains of people about words and stories and characters. And it was an incredible 4 years. And I'm very proud that I actually completed it. And unfortunately, right after that, I went into publishing, and that's when I got sick. When I went from being a very active person, taking forever to get to York University to get my English and creative writing degree, and then all of a sudden working at a computer all day and publishing, my body said, this is not what we were made to do, and I got fibromyalgia. I thought at the time that going into publishing was the perfect place for me to go because I wanted to give representation to voices. I wanted to give a space for people's stories, and that all got thrown out the window. From there, I moved to British Columbia, hoping that I could heal myself by going to gurus. So I went on this health odyssey for years. I became a vegetarian. Basically, at the time, I was a vegan. Nothing worked. Didn't matter. But I gave it my all. And then I realized I'm not going to heal. I'm going to have fibromyalgia. I'm going to have to deal with this. And that's when I focused on writing. I started with a paranormal blog called Spooky Suzie. I moved to Sacred Suzie, which was all about living a very spiritual life. And then, of course, Suzie The Foodie, which lasted 14 years. 14 years of my life, which was pretty much snuffed out thanks to the pandemic. And then this last year, I had broken heart syndrome. And yes, that's a real thing. I think I'll write a book on that one day. But so writing isn't completely dead, but that's a very long topic. But as we have all been through a lot this last couple of years, I had broken heart syndrome. And that basically is the emotional version of having a heart attack. I know there's a lot of people out there who were like, oh, she's a foodie. Her arteries were clogged, blah, blah, blah. No, fuck you. I had an angiogram. My heart is fucking fine that way, bastards. I can't help it. This is Badasste, man. I get so angry at people who shame other people about food and shit like that. So no, it wasn't that. And no, it wasn't because of a boyfriend. It wasn't because of something like that. My heart broke for somebody. But the amazing thing about that experience is I learned that there are different ways to be able to express your emotions that don't include writing. Shocker! I didn't know this. Oh my goodness. When my life was always falling apart, the first thing I would do is grab a journal and write what I was feeling. I couldn't do that. My heart was too fragile. I was basically on bed rest, and I had to come up with another way to experience emotions and let them flow through me. I did a lot of research and I had help thanks to my friend Michelle, and I came up with an idea. My idea was to sing. This voice singing, I know, but we have to let the emotions come through us, and that's what I came up with. And then I was like, wait a minute. If I can sing my broken heart, if I can sing my pain, perhaps I can do something with my voice that isn't singing, because I don't want anyone else to hear that. And then I thought, geez, I haven't done podcasting in a long time and I really like it. And I live in Kitchener, Ontario, pretty much by myself. I moved here during the pandemic. That's a long story. And I have not had a chance or opportunity, because of how things are, to be able to meet people. So what if I was able to connect with the people I technically already kind of know online and meet new people too through a podcast? And that's how this all came about. So I'm hoping that it's a healing journey, that it's an intense, positive, badass experience, and that you find it fascinating and inspiring. And I would love to hear your questions, your ideas, your takes, anything that you want on this podcast. I have done some social media polls. People seem to be very interested in the healing journey. People are very interested in the creative process, which is great, and the supernatural, which is very cool. That's where all of this began, people. To go on to that theme, I literally came up with this idea and realized that the day before, I had put in a conversation with my sisters that I had this dream where there was like all this lava, like it was totally out of like Lord of the Rings, Mordor. And there were these people in black robes, and they had this black box, and they said, Suzie, you can't let these stories disappear. And I woke up going, what the fuck does that mean? I have no idea. I didn't have any clue. And it's crazy, because subconsciously I was working on it and I processed it and I came up with this idea, and then I was like, oh my God, I can't believe my dream actually told me specifically what to do. I mean, it was pretty goddamn clear. I thought they were talking about my stories. My stories are okay, but I'm really interested in other people's stories. I want to hear about how other people were badasses. So it's kind of like it was all blessed from my subconscious and the other side, and just so wild. So I definitely had to include a supernatural element to all of this, because it was real. It's authentic. If anyone knows me and online, I'm all about authenticity. It's one of the reasons why I had to walk away from Suzie The Foodie, because I don't fucking lie. And I don't embellish, and I don't kiss ass. It all just got too complicated. But anyway, so yes, supernatural, blessed by the heavens. I'm supposed to be doing this. Apparently, the universe wants me to help save these stories. And so that's why I'm here. So let me know what you want to hear about. Let me know if you want to be on the show. Let me know how you were a badass today. It doesn't have to be big. In fact, sometimes it's the smallest gestures that we make, the kindness that we do, the writing to a company to say, you did a great job or you sucked at this. All of that is badass. We are all badasses. And I want to say we are not alone. You are not alone. I'm not alone because you're here. You're listening to me. And we're going to keep each other going through these tough times. Thank you for listening to the first episode of Badasste. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got to know me a little bit. And I hope you get to decide whether or not you want to come back and hang out and share your story too. Thanks for listening. Have a badass day. And I see the badass in you.